Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello friends and welcome to my August wrap-up. And August, I believe, pretty confidently to say this was my best reading month of the year. Now, of course, best is relative. I think I read the most this year is maybe what it is. I don't know. I think March was probably still more because of the what happened in March. March was the readathon that I was a part of, and I read 34 books for that one. So no, it's pretty tied with it. But also I read a really varied range of books, as you'll see, and that makes me happy too. You know, it isn't all about the numbers for me at this point anymore, but the subgenres, I read a pretty varied group this time, and that always makes me feel good too, that I'm stretching myself and getting around to some other things, so that's cool. But yeah, if you are new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for coming to a monthly wrap-up. I do things a little bit different than some channels do. I actually do weekly reading wrap-ups. I have a whole playlist of them right here. Talked about all of the over 250 books that I've read so far this year. And when I do my monthly wrap-ups, I really like to focus on like the positives and the stuff that I loved the most. So that means I'm going to talk about my stats, a little bit about what the month was like, some things that I had going on and stuff like that. And then I will share my top 5 reads of the month. So I don't really go into any of my like negative thoughts on much here. Once in a while there's something that really irritated me and I'll mention it, but we don't have anything like that to do this month. But otherwise, if you want to know about every book that I read, you can check out those weekly wrap-ups where I go into much more detail, which too much detail for some people. Some people don't want to know the exact thoughts on it. And in that case, if you would just like, to know just a rating of mine to know if you want to read it or not, you can follow me on my Goodreads or on my Instagram, where I share more like brief flashes of what I'm reading. But I like to get really in depth here. That's kind of what I'm known for. And I just believe that with romance novels in general, we know where everything is heading because I read books with HEAs. And so I like to go more in depth about what I loved about the book to convince you to read it than just say what the tropes are and like, oh, you should read it, right? Because that, every book wants you to just read it, So that's who I am. That's what I do. And I don't normally do a little spiel, but I was just feeling it today. I'm feeling fresh too. I finally touched up the hair. This is the most purple that it will ever look. Usually it looks this more red color down here. But when I freshen it up, especially purple, and it's fall, so I'm really feeling it today. And that's what we got. So anywho, let's jump into the stats. And then we will talk about my top 5 reads of August, which is great. Yeah. Oh, a little bit more before that. A few of the things that happened in August. So I was mostly at home this month. I made a lot of trips this month. That's what I did. Because my cousin had her twin boys mid-July, and I really wanted to kind of help her out a bit. So I've actually been making trips to her home, which is about 90 minutes from here. For pretty much every week in August, I went there. And that meant I had a lot of time in the car, and I really got my like audio listening back up a bit. I had been struggling to kind of finish some audios for a while. You wouldn't know it by the numbers because I still listen to kind of the same amount of ALCs as I always do. But I just was really in the zone with it while I was doing a lot of that traveling, and that was just amazing. Her twin boys and her other kids are just so sweet, and she's a stay-at-home mom of 5, and her husband works real hard, but that's a lot. And so that is just a tiny bit of help that I can provide, mostly my company and giving her a chance to shower and all those good things. So that is something that I've done. Also, my work with Noelle in August was really great. If you don't know, I am a assistant for Noelle Adams, aka Claire Kent, who writes I mean, we won't even get into it. She writes so much. But there have just been some really exciting things happening with her. There was a surprise novella that she is putting out, and so I got to read that early. And I'm just really excited the direction she's going with that. There's going to be these post-apocalyptic fairy tales. She's going with she's stretching herself a little bit with some of the cover designs for it, and I'm so excited about it. I really hope everybody really attaches to it. And this book is also going to be a great entry into her post-apocalyptic world, because it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit more quirky than some of the other ones are. Quirky's maybe the wrong word, but yeah. And then the Kickstarter that she's a part of, which is just nuts because it has the likes of Allie Hazelwood, Adriana Herrera, Kate C. Wells, Sherry Thomas. They're all a part of this Kickstarter, which just launched the other day. And it is already at like $750,000 already, which is just amazing. So I'm just very excited to be a part of her team and to be helping with that. So that was a really cool part of August anyway. Okay, so for August, here are the stats, and then we will get into what I think about the books that I read or what my favorite reads were. So I read 33 books. One of those was a DNF. We'll come back around to that, but I read 33 books, and that was 11,600 pages. Just a quick compare back to July. In July, I got through 28 books, and now it was 11,000 pages. So about the same amount of pages, but more books. I always think that is interesting how that shakes out. Then there was 8 ALCs and 5 audios, so a total of 13 audiobooks. There was 11 ARCs and 14 ebooks, so a total of 25 ARCs. So, wow, you can tell ARCs and ALCs are still a huge part of it. Now, I do overlap how I read sometimes, so if I'm listening to an ALC, I may also supplement it with the ebook. So, those aren't completely separate ARCs and everything. More the better way to look at that is to like tally up the ARCs and ALCs there. And then I had 12 physical books, which with physical books, I sometimes also am listening to the audiobook as well with that. But yeah, really pretty even spread for a lot of that this month. Then for the subgenres, this is where, like I said, I felt really good with the spread that I had here. I mean, of course, there's still 13 contemporary. Like, contemporary is always going to be kind of the main thing that I'm getting to. But there was 4 dark romance, 2 dystopian, 3 historical, 3 paranormal, 4 erotic romance, 1 sci-fi, 1 fantasy, 1 fan fiction, and 1 non-romance altogether. And to point that out, I always point out when it's the non-romance because I don't read a lot of those. Noelle actually has a book on writing that's coming out in October. I know, super weird plug, but I had to read that one for, content purposes. And she had told me, she's like, I know this won't really be your thing. It's mostly going to be a book for writers. But if you could just pull out a few quotes for me, you don't even have to read the whole thing. And I was like, sure, no problem. Thank you. But it was only 150 pages. And y'all, it was riveting. Okay. Sorry, I'm going on a mini tangent again, but that's what you're here for. Because obviously I'm very curious about this woman. I work for her. She herself calls herself a hermit. She calls herself a hermit in the first paragraph of this book. But she has been writing for over 30 years and been actually in the industry for almost 15 years. And just hearing this book, Writing Invisible, is so fascinating because she really goes over how and why she was able to stay mostly invisible, and yet she has written over 130 books. Because oftentimes when I share her with people, and this is before I ever worked for her, mind you, this was just when I was a reader, people had never heard of her, but yet she's been around for so long. And anyway, I don't have the time to go fully into this. I apologize. I shouldn't do that. But I thought it was fascinating. So, this book will only be for a certain niche of people. But even if you're not a writer and you're curious about Claire Kent or Noelle Adams, I think this is really interesting. She talks a lot about the business. She talks about how she has made it in genre fiction, specifically genre romance, and is able to make a career in which, again, these are numbers right from the book. I'm not giving away assistant secrets. This is in the book. She's made over $3 million in her career, and yet most people have barely heard of her, but yet she still makes a comfortable living. And that's something I found fascinating as I have worked for her these, 8 months so far, is just how practical she is, but yet her style of writing is so unique, So anyway, I just had to go on a spiel on it. Obviously, I am a big fan, and so, but still, I wasn't expecting to love that. I really have no interest in writing anything. I know people have encouraged me to, and I've thought about it at times, particularly when I first lost my job and went full-time creator. But it's just not how my brain works. I just can't focus it into writing. I've tried that through the years. But hearing her and how she's made genre fiction work is definitely very inspiring. And I found that it told such an interesting part of her story, because that's why I'm going to recommend it to some readers as well, and not just writers, because it really gives you an insight into, she's very honest about the business part of it, but also still writing books that inspire her. So very interesting. So anyway, that was my non-romance that I didn't mean to rant about. But again, I feel like I had a really good spread over, I got through 3 historicals this month, and there was the paranormal and the erotic, and I like that, because a lot of times in the past few months, there's a bigger spread between dark romance and contemporary. I usually read more dark romance, and then 1 or 2 of everything else. So yeah, I just thought that was cool how it worked out, that I had a more, even spread with a lot of things. I think part of that is that I haven't been in a super dark romance mood. So yeah, but anyway, you'll see that. So finally, for the ratings, and then we'll get on to the top 5. I'm just taking too long to talk about it. Sorry too about the lighting. It is a gloomy, rainy day out, which I love, but it's never the best for filming. It's never as conducive for that. Anyway, I had 6 5-star reads, 8 4.5 star reads, 11 4 stars, 6 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, and then that 1 DNF. And that DNF I talk extensively about in a weekly wrap-up, so I won't bring it up here. But there were some pretty frustrating things about it. I made it a good way into it. A lot of times if I DNF a book before 10%, I don't even put it on my list as a DNF. So just because it's just more of a time thing where I'm I don't want to have to explain why I didn't like it. It's just not working for me. But when I DNF a book for a specific reason that I'm okay, the author has either crossed a line or is going in a way that just doesn't work or is nonsensical, and I'm I'm going to hate this book, I will tap out, because I don't owe the author anything, and I owe myself not wasting my time. And when a book starts to frustrate me to the point where I'm getting angry, I have to make the decision of, okay, is this the type of anger that I'm going to want to enforce by giving a 2-star, or do I just want to get out? And with that book, I'll just tell you, In Death, Love Survives, that was one where I was okay, I don't hate this enough to want to make it a sticking point. And it was also an arc. So with arcs, I will definitely DNF quicker than that. But anywho, if you want to know the full dirty details about why I tapped out of that one, you can check out that weekly wrap-up I have up here. So this was a great month, as you saw. The first book that I gave 5 stars to was one of my very anticipated reads for this month, and I just gobbled it up. Now, it was Thorns and Fire by Helen S. Yes, I don't try to say her last name, even though I've heard it multiple times. This was one that I did receive an ARC for it, but I also waited until the ALC was available. Or not the ALC, until the audiobook came out, because it did come out just a week afterwards. Because the way Helen does this is she has both an indie and trad pub releases going for this series. This is book 2 in the Ashes of Thesmar. And I was so happy to get an arc of it. That was really wonderful. But I also, like, needed the audiobook. Sorry, my brain just short-circuited. Because I love the narrators from last time. And I just really wanted them to read the book to me. So I did wait a week to get to that. And also, this is a bigger, even though she's indie, like, this is a bigger author at this point. So I wasn't worried about my voice being the only one people were waiting for. And I'm glad that I did, because this is dual narrated by Matt Hayes and Amelia Bauer. And they do such an amazing job with this. So book 1 was Ashes and Embers, or Iron. Wait, sorry, it's right over there. It's Iron and Embers, sorry. Iron and Embers was book 1. And this is a story about Ren and Torge. And this was a spin-off series from her, I can't remember, but it was something to do with the Kingdom of Thesmar, maybe. I never read that series. So this is able to be a series that I love, and I didn't read the original yet. And I believe it was like the Blood and Steel ones is what they were. And it's funny too, because that's also what happened with the books by L.J. Andrews. I started with the Ever Queen, the Ever King, whichever one of those, and I didn't read the original series, and I loved those books, right? And this is kind of the same case with this, is that Nerd Fam was doing a release of Iron and Embers, and I was like, I want to read that book. It looks beautiful. But I didn't read the original series yet. I hope to someday, but at this point, I'm finishing out this series first. So, what is this about with Ren and Torge? So, you know, I can't obviously spoil this one because it's book 2 in the series. So, saying a bit about Iron and Embers, that book, these two, Torge and Ren, already know each other from the previous series. They've already had some flirty flirt going on. And Torge actually loses a position that he has. He is a, like, bodyguard and protector because of Ren, who poisons his charge, or he believes that she does anyway. So she is a poisoner and a alchemist and some other things like that. And she's also sisters to one of the, like, there are these, like, heirs to Thesmar or whatever, and their kingdom, it has been mostly destroyed. So, like, there's still, like, the heirs to this kingdom that's basically in ruin. So it's like they're more important kind of for, like, political reason than them actually, like, ruling anyone, you know, at least at the beginning of this series. And so Ren is still important because she's one of the heirs. But in Iron and Embers, she ends up going to this kind of alchemy school. And it's kind of cool because in here, we even have like a map of the school grounds and everything. And in the first one, she's going to this alchemy school and everything. And that's what we really see in Iron and Embers. And we have Torge and her, who are, I mean, it's fantasy, so I can tell you, they are fated mates or like soul mates or whatever you want to call it. And they're coming to kind of grips with that in book one of this trilogy. And Torge has been assigned as her bodyguard because he is what's called what's he called? He has a certain special type of warrior power or something. I can't remember what he's called now. War sword, there we go. He's a war sword. And so he gets assigned to protect Ren when she goes to this poisoner school because she's an heir, and though she's going to learn these poisons and alchemy and everything, she still needs a protector. So it isn't only him. There's a few other soldiers also, I think it's mostly 2, who get assigned to protect her. And in that first book, we see her, and she kind of has this like group project she gets assigned, and she gets assigned these 2 other alchemists who they work through some projects together. So it's interesting because it has this mixture of, like, there are these I'll just say it, it's kind of like a Triwizard Tournament type vibe going on, but they're all using potions and alchemy where they're trying to get to the top of the class to get the best, like, position and things like that. And there'll be different things they have to do. Like one of them I remember is like they all get poisoned and they have to figure out the antidote for their own poison or whatever like that. Also, like Ren, though she is not like a physical fighter, she has these ways that she enhances her physical skills by having poison. So she has like this belt that she carries her different poisons on it, right? So she has like knives that are dipped in poison and she has different things she can throw. So just very cool. Like she's definitely not a weakling. And it definitely leads to some cool things where when Torge is getting on her nerves, it's like, just because you're this big, strong war sword, I still have ways to get you, because everyone is susceptible to poison in some way. So yeah, that's a lot of the first book, right? There was something then that happened at the end of the first one, because this is a trilogy about the same couple, so there are cliffhangers. But the positive part of it is that she isn't making you wait too long. Really, there wasn't. The first one came out in like March. This one came out technically the end of July. It took me until the first week of August to get to it. And then book 3 was originally scheduled for February, but it's coming in November. The third book, which if I remember, I'll put up a picture, and if I didn't, go look it up. It's green. It's called Silver and Smoke, and that will be the final one in the trilogy about Ren and Torge. But in this one, let's just say there's a lover's quarrel between the two of them. But he still is the one who is sent to protect her. And again, he is also her fated mate. And so he needs to be the one to protect her anyway. And in this one, there is a little bit more of politicking going on. There are some things that come to light about Thesmar and things that we maybe thought were dead and gone. And then there's also this tension between the two of them, because now she, there's still destruction that's facing the land in certain places. And there are new political players who emerge. And she discovers that she also has some storm magic. That's one thing that I forgot to mention. She is a pretty powerful girl. And it's more powerful than they could thought. And it really can cause a lot of damage, or it could heal the earth in ways that they just didn't know about. So I know I'm being super vague, and none of this makes sense when you're explaining a fantasy to people. It's really difficult. So let me focus too on just like the relationship between Torge and Ren really is very important. So let me pull it back to that, right? And I think that's very difficult for an author to do when you're trying to make a romance last through a trilogy. It's one of the reasons I don't love trilogies, right? Because if we're going to do that, we have to have these different cliffhangers where we still make their relationship interesting. And sometimes that means they're like breaking up and getting back together or whatever. That is not the funnest thing to read for me as a romance reader. However, the little tiff they had at the end of book 1, I understood it. And then as we go through it in this book, some things are revealed, and the way that they're still drawn together is just so good. Like, truly, these two have such great chemistry, and they really do play on the hate to love between them. And at the beginning of this book, it's a bit back to hate to love, but it's more of like it's hurt because one of the characters did something to push their love away to, of course, protect them. But the reason they're trying to protect them, like, when you see what it is, you're like, yeah, I can understand why you did that. But the chemistry is just so good. And I think that the author does a really good job of balancing that. And where we ended it at the end of this one, I was really nervous that we were headed for another kind of like breakup again. And I was like, really? I just don't want that. But I was loving the book so much that I was like, it's fine. But that isn't quite how it went. So I will say that is like, I know people are going to want to wait till all 3 books are out. I understand. I made the choice when I started this trilogy that I knew I was going to be in for some cliffhangers. But at least this author is really pushing towards her release dates, at least as of now. Who knows? If TradPub decides to pick her up, that could change things again. You just don't know. But as of right now, like, she's pushing towards releases with her books. So I don't think we'll be kept waiting forever. And where Torge and Ren have to end this book, it doesn't feel as much of a cliffhanger as book 1 was. They're definitely still together, though they're this time, instead of one of them kind of pushing the other away to protect each other, they're on the same side. And so any lies, let's say, they have to tell about them still being together, they're both in on it. So let's say that. But anywho, I've talked long enough, but I love this. I love the audiobooks. As I said, you can binge books 1 and 2 right now if you want to. And book 3 is coming in November, which is Silver and Smoke. So yeah, these are also just really beautiful. I want to get the hardcovers of these ones as well. Because currently I do have book 1, but I have an ARC copy of book 1. So I want to get a copy that matches this one. Okay, next up we had Make Me Yours by Jennifer Susovic. I still can't pronounce that. Ooh. This was an ALC that I got from Must Love Audio. This was a new to me author. I also had quite a few new to me authors this month. I think I had 5 new to me authors, which was cool. I need to do an updated smash or pass for new to me authors. It's been a hot minute there. But this was a friends to lovers hockey romance, and these two are, this was duet narrated by Vanessa Edwin and Christian Fox. Great pairing, love them. And this was Lila and Steele. And so they're friends, and Lila is like Steele's good luck charm. She comes to all of his games, and he always does really well when she's there, so she's his good luck charm and everything. But at the beginning of this book, she finds out that her partner has cheated on her. We just love to see that. And she basically loses her job and her home all at once, because that's what happens when this happens to the poor gals. This was one of the ones, like I said, I was a bit annoyed because of how like her family treats her when she's the one who got, you know, cheated on. We've talked about that ad nauseum in other videos, how I'm really getting sick of that trope. I would like that to not be the way that it goes, but it is, because I feel like it's supposed to give the woman like permission to move on faster, when I'm really like, I'm not going to hold it against anyone for moving on faster, but maybe some other people would. I don't know. But anyway, so Steele steps up and he's like, well, A, you're going to move in with me, and B, you can be my personal assistant because I need that in my life. And so he gives her a job and a home all in one. And now they're living together, and this chemistry that's kind of just been denied because they were, you know, he's been into her for a while, but they were always with someone, right? That's how it goes. And now he has her in his house, and his plan is to prove to her that she should be with him. Now, when she is, of course, nervous about this because she doesn't want to ruin their friendship, he's the most important relationship in her life, and things start to heat up between them, he does kind of the chicken shit thing. Like, let's just admit it. We think this is being a bit chicken. He says, well, while you're living here, we can just be having sex. You know, that won't ruin our friendship. Not more than us actually dating and me courting you might win our friendship. But no, if we just have sex and then stop having sex at some point, that won't ruin our relationship at all. Oh, the fallacy that that brings up. But I guess it's supposed to give us a free card where we don't have to take things too seriously. And Steele's plan is to win her over with his mad sex skills, and wooing her in other ways too, proving how much he knows her and how much he can pleasure her, and get her to give him a chance, which, I mean, honestly, it was really beautiful. That's why this is one of my favorites. So I know I'm rolling my eyes at a few things, but it's more for the fact that, you know, even us who read things based on tropes, a lot of the times can still be a bit, did an author have to follow it to a T type of thing? But that didn't get in the way of me enjoying this, mostly because Steele is so far gone for her. And we know from the moment that he blurts out, well, we can just experiment sexually, it doesn't have to mean anything. We know what he means, right? We know that he really plans to win her over, and she just doesn't feel ready for a relationship yet. That's a lot of what it is, right? Is because the person she was just in a relationship cheated on her, and she's seen him be a player before, but has she really seen him being a player, or was he just trying to fill the gaps until he had a chance with her? Who's to say, right? So yeah, I enjoyed this so much. I love the duet narration. It got a little bit spicy, as we say. There were some really fun things with some hand necklaces. There's a really really good scene with some hand necklaces and some sex toys. So this one did have some trigger warnings for like gaslighting and emotional abuse from I believe her parents and from the ex and stuff. But I truly enjoyed this one, and I will absolutely read more of this author. So that's always a win. All right, then we had a book that I should have gotten to ages ago, but I am a naughty, naughty girl, and that just happens sometimes that things get away from me. But I finally read this one because I needed to, I did this kind of on purpose because some of my patrons had actually picked this book to have it annotated. And so I was like, yes, I now need to get to it because I kept pushing it off because I didn't get an arc of this one. And you guys know, sometimes that means that I'm not going to get to the book for months and months. But the one I finally read was Rewind It Back by Liz Tom 40. And like most of her books, this one ended up on my favorites list. I gave this book 5 stars. It wrecked me in a lot of ways. Though many people, I think, maybe forgot how wonderful Ryan Shea was, because people were saying they liked Rio more than Ryan Shea. And I do just respectfully disagree. I do. Though I did a couple times in my notes write, we're getting close to Ryan Shea territory. Like, we truly are. Ryan Shea, all you gotta do is go reread a couple chapters of The Right Move, and you'll remember who is superior. Even Rio is a fanboy over Ryan Shea, as we see in here. But no, it's so good. This was, I was so nervous because it'd been so long since I'd read one of her books, and I have a complicated relationship with Liz Tom 40, so I wasn't sure if I would still feel it with this one. Also, this one is a second chance romance, and it does have a lot of flashbacks in it. Though I guess I won't say a lot because I'll talk about the flashbacks again in a moment. But also, she knows how to hit me just right. And this was such a beautiful book. So yeah, this one is about Rio and Hallie. Hallie, I don't know how we're saying her name. Sorry, I didn't listen to the audio. But these two have been into each other for a long time. They were next door neighbors starting at the age of 11. I believe he's 2 years older. So 11 and 13 is when they meet. And we know that they had dated at one point. When we start this book, though, we don't know any of that, right? And we haven't heard any of these things about Rio at all. I believe there was a hint in a previous book, but not much. And Rio needs to get his house actually designed. I don't know what to say, redesigned. And his next door neighbor, who has just had her place redesigned, recommends the person who did it, the interior design, that's what it was. And it turns out too that this person who had just redesigned his neighbor's house is actually a friend of hers, and she's living with her until she can afford an apartment. And part of her, living there was helping with the redesign. And so Rio was like, great, send me the person. And so he sets up this appointment with her. And then one day when he's coming home, he runs into the woman that wrecked him all these years ago. His first love, his only love, and now a woman that they both despise each other for an unknown reason, right? And he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And you find out that she's the one who's living there, and he's like, well, you can't work on my place. Like, that's not going to happen. And she's like, I need this job. Like, you can't just get rid of me. And he's like, I can't have you in my house every day. Like, I just can't do it. And so eventually, though, of course, we'll just move along. Of course, he agrees to let her. And as they start to spend time together, Rio just starts to remember all the things that he loved about her. And he wonders if maybe it's time to put the past behind them and move on from what separated them. And again, we don't know what that thing is. We start gathering clues as we go. We know that he's no longer friends with her brother either. I forgot to say that because he started as her brother's best friend and then the neighbor. And they had fallen in love when they were young. And then when he went off to the NFL, something had broke them up. That's what we know. And so through the book, as I said, there are some flashbacks. Now, again, I don't love flashbacks. I very often end up skipping over them. But that's what I was going to say about this. I feel like Liz did a good job with them in here by not having them be every other chapter. And they only showed significant things, right? So she does the thing that if you're going to do flashbacks, I prefer them to be in two ways. One, I prefer you to just have one flashback where you show the thing that broke us up, or you only show us the things that we need to see. Because in general, I believe that you should start the story where you want to start the story. If you're going to show flashbacks, have them in a prologue. If you're going to need stuff to be shared with us, just have the characters do it in dialogue or have it be reflected upon. But I think she did a really good job with this because we only show key moments that build for us how tight their relationship was and what a loss this was when things didn't work. And those flashbacks lead up to, you know, the first time that they hung out without her brother around, the first time that they kissed, the first time that they made love with each other. And then once we're about to find out what the thing was that broke them up, we show the scene where Haley discovered something that ruined everything for both of them. Now, there was not cheating between Rio and Haley. No, it had nothing to do with that. But I really don't want to tell you what the thing was because it was so powerful to get to it. And it's one of those things where, like, you pretty much know what it is by the time you get to it. Like, there've been just enough hints that you're like, okay, so this thing wasn't something that either of them did, but they still broke each other's hearts, but they still kind of hate each other. So what could this thing be that makes them hate each other, but yet neither of them did it, right? So again, we're building up to that. And when you finally see it, you just realize, oh my God, this is devastating. And yes, we could have reacted a different way about it, but also I understand why these two broke up, because two young people finding this out, it would possibly break you up. And if you didn't take the time to discuss it with each other because you are, you know, barely adults yourself, I understand why it happened. And then they lived in different parts of the country and there was no reason to discuss it, right? And I thought that the flashbacks, which I believe there's only like 5 or 6 total in it. Again, it's not every other chapter. It's just filling in the moments as they come. And you know, it also fits for the title, Rewind It Back. Rio was really into making like mixtapes and CDs for them and stuff, which is really cute. So yeah, I ended up really loving this. And the things about Rio that really speak Ryan Shea energy is just his absolute like caretaking, his absolute adoration for her, and seeing that reawaken in him, because he really did push it down. And to his friends, he was always the fun-loving Rio, and he's Uncle Rio to their kids. This book takes place, you know, about 5 years on from some of the other ones, because, you know, like Ryan and Indy have, I think, their 2 kids, and there's another little kiddo there too. There's like 3 or 4. There's a scene in here where the friends all have him babysit their kids. That's kind of a ploy to get him to invite Haley over to help him babysit. And it's just so cute. So it takes place a little bit on from some of the other ones because the couples all have kids that they make him watch, which I think is adorable. So yeah, I love this book. I still think The Right Move is my favorite, but truly I would say for me it's like The Right Move and then like Rewind It Back and like Rewind It Back and Mile High are like right there, and then probably Caught Up, and then Play Along. Play Along is still kind of my least favorite one because it didn't make any sense to me as a Married in Vegas one. Like truly I was like, what is this? But anyway, love that book. Okay, next up was Chasing Forever, which I'll talk kind of briefly about because I did just read this one, and so you can check out my weekly wrap up about this. But this was another ALC that I had. This one was duet narrated by Stephen Dexter and Vanessa Edwin. And this one brought us back to Plain Daisy Ranch. This is now going to be the Owens era. The first 3 were the Naughtons. And now this is the cousins, the Owens. And this one is a Married in Vegas one, between Brooks and Lottie. And they're actually in Vegas for their cousin's wedding. It's her cousin and it's his like friend, because he's kind of adopted into the family. And he's actually been like, he used to be best friends with Lottie, and then Lottie was actually at one point engaged to his brother, and then something went bad. Now this was almost a decade ago that she was engaged to his brother, and so they kind of lost like that friendship that they'd had, though they're still friendly. And he has always wanted her, even before she was with his brother. He's the town sheriff. He's the son of the town's mayor, who's an absolute prick. And when they wake up married, Lottie is very eager to not be the source of any town gossip. She wants to get an annulment right away. And he's like, well, how about no? And she's like, excuse me? You need to sign these papers right now. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, how about you let me take you on some dates? Because I've actually been into you for ages, and I'd really love for you to give me a chance to prove to you that we should be together. And he's like, and she's like, no. And he's like, well, I'm not going to give you this annulment if you won't give me a chance. So she ends up agreeing to a certain amount of dates. And though she looks to her family for confirmation, like, hey, tell him he should give me an annulment, they're kind of like, well, maybe you should give him a try. So she really is kind of on her own here. The only people who want the annulment are Brooks's parents, because they think that it is shameful that he married his brother's ex-fiance, and they've always seen her as a gold digger and all of these things. But Brooks finally has this woman that he wants so badly in his grasp, and he's not just gonna roll over and give her up anymore. Like, those days are done. So I just adored this. I thought it was great. I loved how the small town, again, basically all wanted them to be together. And yeah, this couple was so sweet. I highly recommend this one. And you don't have to have read the other Plain Daisy Ranch. This will say that it's book 4, but again, they took over a year break before this one came. And this is about a different, like, family. So yes, you can start with, the original trilogy if you want to, but you can also just start fresh with this one. The only reason it's listed as number 4 is because it's still in the same town, and so they did Plain Daisy Ranch, the Naughtons, and now this is Plain Daisy Ranch, the Owens, so you can start there if you'd like to. Okay, and then the final book I put, which it was really hard to pick which one to put as the last one, because I had a lot of 4.5 stars this month, and a lot of my 5-star ones were like rereads, so that's why I didn't put them on here. But I had a lot of 4.5 stars that I just really liked and still wanted to put on here. But I ended up going with the Ecstasy of Sin by Kay Allister for a couple of reasons. I put it on my favorites. Number 1, I did really just love it. This was great. But also, I just really love this author. She is a really small author who really deserves her due with this book. I've seen such growth in her writing. I've read every book that she's put out. She is a friend of the channel. So yes, all of those are out there. It's out there. But also, it's not like I've given her earlier books a pass. They had issues. They were things that weren't perfect. But one of the things about her style that's really coming across is she writes very morally black men who just become instant protectors and obsessive stalkers of their heroines. And they may even be kind of rough with their heroines too, but they just put this protective bubble around them. And it's that thing where, like, only I can talk dirty to you. Only I can call you a naughty, dirty girl. Everyone else better take heed, because I will end them if they don't. She also writes a lot of serial unalivers, but this is the first book in a new series. And it's going to be about these 4 kind of like foster brothers who've become this like brotherhood. And there's a bit of some like mafia connection. I think there definitely will be in one of the other books, because one of the other heroes is more kind of directly involved in that. But this one, we just have a serial unaliver here who is a bit of a vigilante, but he just enjoys the kill. And so he finds a place to, direct his wrathful energy. And I'm here for it. Okay. So then we have Ren, who is really down on her luck. Okay, the beginning of this book is extremely hard to read. She is homeless. She has a chronic migraine condition. She can not afford the medication that she needs to be functional. She's literally wanting to have assisted end-of-life care because her life is so miserable and she just can't catch a break. Like, Kay really puts you in a place of her utter despair. And as someone who suffers from migraines myself, there was actually parts of this that were like tough to read because they were so accurate. And this is a owned voice for Kay herself as well. But dear Lord, did I feel lucky that my migraines are not at this level when I was reading this, because there are parts of it that I really related to, but there's also parts where I'm like, I can still function. I can't imagine being on the street and not being able to afford your medication. Because I know the agony of one of my migraines when I have all the comforts in the world around me, you know? So I know I've had a few of you reach out and say you have it as well. So I highly recommend it for that reason too. I mean, it's very accurate. But yeah, our heroine is homeless. She's on the street and in shelters, trying to get a job, trying to keep a job with her condition, not having insurance. Like, all those things are just very, like, difficult. But then she catches the eye of Dominic one night when she goes into an all-night clinic. She needs to get some medication. She goes to this 24/7 clinic, and Dominic happens to be there and gets an eye of her, and he immediately becomes attached to her. He ends up that night actually buying her medicine for her, and he's like, just wants to do that, and then he starts stalking her. And this leads him to actually save her from an attack one night and actually kills the man in front of her. So now she knows there's a whole nother layer to him as well, and now she's pretty frightened of him. But it's far too late for her to get away because he is now obsessed. He's just biding his time, letting her feel a bit secure before he's going to take her and make her his. Yeah, it's just that good, because once he gets her, he enjoys the chase a lot too. That's also why he doesn't just take her right away. It's because, I mean, he does enjoy making her scared, and he discovers that she's really turned on by him stalking and fucking her in gym showers. You know, that happens at one point. And he really enjoys the game with her. So yeah, there's some primal play going on in here. There's a whole list of kinks and of trigger warnings in this one. So some of the kinky stuff, though, is there's breath play, there's breeding, there is some CNC, there's slight daddy kink. She calls him daddy a few times. It's hot. There's some primal play, restraints. There's a bit of spitting at one point too. That was, whew, so hot. So definitely brings off the spice, but this has a lot of heart as well. That is something that really fits in there. So if you like, I was trying to put to, you know, because we, as tropey romance readers, we like to be able to say, like, if you like this, try this. And it's really hard to fit this together because it's a mix of, like, the level of, like, a Rena Kent obsession or, like, S. Massery obsession, but the kind of care of the heroine that's like a Neva Altai, okay? So it's this weird mix of, he is that level of darkness, but he doesn't have that, like, same level of, like, degradation, hate kind of that you get in S. Massery or Rena Kent. But that doesn't mean it's as soft as a Neva Altai too. That's what I'm trying to say, is like, you have to be okay with the, like, violence and the kinkiness level of Rena Kent, but you want him to be softer to her. That is what made this just sing for me, right? Because that is one of my, like I say that about Rena Kent. It's why I've had an up and down journey with her, because I like a lot of aspects about it. I like the psychological stuff and the, consensual non-consent or the dubious things about it. But I don't always like how cruel her men are to, well, either to other men, because she writes to, or to the heroine. I want him to be softer for her. And that is really what Dominic is. He also has a wonderful dog that all of his brothers are obsessed with, which I love. And yeah, I think this is set up to be a great series. I know the next one she has coming will hopefully be here in November, which is great. And yeah, I just really want you to give Kay's book a try if you like some of those darker ones. I really think you could love this. So I'll have links to all of these down below if you want to give them a try. So thank you so much for watching. That'll be it for this monthly wrap up. Those were my 5 favorite reads. Let me know what some of yours were. Check out the links down below. Thank you to my Patreon and channel member supporters who help me do what I do. If you would like to contribute to the channel, please think about maybe supporting me in one of those ways. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time.